Go back to the modeling work you have done, because I do want to make sure we get enough time to talk about your pageantry side of things too. And then of course we got to shoot you up before we're kicked out of the space. So, what kind of modeling stuff have you done over the years? What stuff do you particularly like shooting as far as like genres or types of content? Studio versus on location versus outdoors, indoors, fashion versus other content. What do you like?
So I really like to do a little bit of everything. However, I think it's important that you research your photographer. Some photographers are better outdoors. Some photographers are better indoors. I do not like shooting in the cold. I'm not a cold
we'll never do that.
person. I will do it on occasions. Like if we were like, I brought a long coat, we could have went outside and done like 10 images and then we'd be right back inside. So I'm a reptile. I like it warm. I like it. Now if it was hot, I'd be all for it. So I really don't mind changing it up. I like doing everything. The only thing I don't shoot is boudoir or nude. And that is just because of, number one, my age, but number two, because I'm a pageant queen, I want to make sure that even though boudoir can be very tasteful, it's not something that I want to shoot anymore. I have shot it in the past where it's still tasteful and it's still a little sexy, but I'm a little bit older now. And so, I've kind of had the experience of doing that. I did a lot of swimsuit back in the day. I'm trying to get back to that, so we'll see how that goes. We are shooting a swimsuit today, so those photos may never appear on Earth. We got to see. We got to see what they look like. But I'm really working on my fitness as I get older. But I did a lot of swimsuit, a lot of catalog.
And you mentioned Runway too.
And I've done Runway. So I like doing a little bit of everything. I don't know if I could just stick with one thing. I know some models are really good with one thing. I tend to get a lot of catalog work just because of my look. I tend to get a lot of beauty work because I do have giant eyelids and green eyes that I can't see out of, but that's okay. So I tend to get a lot of like beauty work and headshot work because I don't mind about like what people put on my face, so to speak, as far as like little gems or like orange slices. None of that really bothers me. I'm kind of game. The only thing I won't shoot with is like bugs. We're not doing bugs. So.
Well, I feel like we have to dive into Runway a little bit more because, again, unique perspective that we have here of you not only having done Runway, I think the last few interviews that I've done, they hadn't done Runway, so we couldn't even dive into that, but also being a Runway coach, right? So I definitely have to ask you questions now because you're the expert. So tell us a little bit about what's the difference between Runway and other styles of modeling, and what's like the number one, let's say the top 2 tips you would give to somebody that's thinking about doing Runway?
So Runway is very, you are a coat hanger. That's how I like to describe it. You have no facial expression to a degree, depending on what runway you're doing. Now, there are some runway shows that you can have a little bit more personality and you can have a little bit of a different step, but fashion runway is very straightforward. You are the coat hanger. You are literally there to show off what is on your body. No more, no less. Typically with a runway, you can expect your hair to be whatever the designer wants and your makeup to be whatever it wants. And sometimes they even put you in different hair. I've worn wigs. I've worn pieces that have covered my entire face where I could only see out of one eye. I've worn a lampshade over my head. I've done a lot of like kind of cool concepts. And I also have a really good friend who is an international model. Her name's Ashley DeMeo, and she has walked runways all over the world. So awesome. She has walked in Paris and Milan, and she's walked New York multiple times. And so really watching her now kind of emerge, because I don't do as many runways as more, it has been really cool. And I'll get to chat with her about like what was her experience like, and she can tell me about the behind the scenes. And if you want to get more into runway, that's your go-to girl is reaching out to her, because she is phenomenal and she's very fierce on the runway. But it's very different from like your smiling to your facial expressions. Your body language is completely different. So you're typically very, very straight. It is a very crossed walk instead of more of like I said, a happy-go-lucky walk. The walk is completely different from a fun runway or a pageant walk.
I always remember seeing like on America's Next Top Model where it's like how much coaching they had to do on runway walking because
Right.
so many of them had never done it before, and like you said, it's very different. And,
It's very different.
And so I'm wondering if, like, well, first of all, have you ever had any runway mishaps in your
Yes,
experience?
I have. So I did a runway here in Pittsburgh where we actually walked over a pool, and the
I
runway
think I remember that event.
ended up being wet, so I had to be really careful. And thankfully, I didn't slip or trip or fall. But I know I think one model did end up falling, and
Not in the pool.
not in the
hopefully.
pool,
Okay,
just on the runway. And she ended up just picking herself right up and right back. I have broken my heel on stage. When I'm walking, my heel has snapped, and you just have to keep walking and keep doing it, and you just have to act like nothing happened. Thankfully, I have not had a wardrobe malfunction to where, unfortunately, I have, been quote unquote embarrassed. But I know other models have. Yeah, I've walked into people, I've walked into walls, especially when your face is covered. It's
So
happened.
is there a standard for runway? Like typically in runway, and maybe it's different for local, and depending upon what the event is and
Yes,
what the
it's
fashion
very,
is,
very
as
different.
far as heights or body styles or anything like that.
Yes. So here in Pittsburgh, fashion is changing. So I will say we are seeing much more diversity, even in New York and Paris, than we've ever seen before. So in Pittsburgh, I feel like it's totally different. I feel like in here and almost if you know how to do the walk, I think they're more lenient on heights, size, shapes, and even body types. However, typically in New York and in Paris and Milan, and especially if you're working with more of a high-end couture designer, you're typically 5'9" and up. And so that is typically the standard, and you're typically between a size 0 and a size 6. And the reason for that is that is the most sample sizes that they typically make, unless they are considered a plus size couture designer. Now, like I said, I have seen within the past year or two that diversity growing and changing, and I love seeing that because I truly believe that we should be seeing every size on a runway. I think that plays into like modeling Psyche 101, even as a young girl, seeing these beautiful models, on billboards, and even, you're going to laugh at this, but I remember the old Marlboro ads with the beautiful girls in the bikinis with the cigarettes, so to speak. And that's what made it enticing, And so I think we do need to have that inclusion and that diversity. And to me, I sit there and say, well, if a child or a younger person can't see themselves in that position, then they don't know it's a possibility. So if you don't see a male photographer who maybe looks like you, or who talks like you, or walks like you, or acts like you, maybe you don't think that you can do that. And so I think the more diversity in the runways is best. But yeah, that's typically the difference. And like I said, the friend of mine who does it, she's 5'10". And so she always makes fun of me. She's like, it's only 2 inches. I'm like, yeah, well, you're 2 inches. I would love to have that.
It seems enormous.
It definitely does. It definitely makes a difference.
Especially when you add another 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of heels on top of that, right?
And I always say, I said, I know, but like I said, I love watching her do her modeling because she'll help me on different things, as it's been a minute since I've done fashion, and I can help her with other things. And we've gotten really, really close over the past few months. So like I said to your viewers, if you're looking for fashion, she's your girl.
Well, I'll make sure to get the link and throw it down below. So if you want to check out, check out her work too, but also, maybe reach out to her. You can do that too.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Let's shift to pageantry stuff, because I'm really curious about this, because I know nothing about the pageantry
Right.
world at all.